where we tell stories that inspire. On this show, I bring on professionals from different walks of life, different fields and industries, and we just hear their stories. And from their stories, I hope that something or the other, I am sure and confident that one or two things will inspire you. With me in the studio today is a very dear person. His name is Omoragbon. Welcome, Omo.
Thank you very much, Pastor May. It's nice to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on Career Journeys. So I'll read a little bit from Omo's profile, LinkedIn profile, and then we'll give him an opportunity to give us a more robust introduction about himself and his career. All right. So Omo, actually Omoragbon Omoregie, and you can correct me after if I pronounce that wrong. Is currently a director of data science and engineering at Microsoft, where they are making big things happen. He's had different things in his career. He's worked with Meta as a data engineering manager. He's been a VP of reporting and analytics. He's been a curriculum developer. He's just done different things around data and engineering in the tech space, and such a rich profile. Amo, can you give us a more comprehensive introduction? Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you very much, Pastor May. Yes. When you were reading the profile, I was like, is that me? Well, yeah. My name is Omar. I currently lead a data engineering team for Microsoft, especially focused around monetization and business planning. Overall, my career has been in the software engineering space. Um, my background, I was born and raised in Nigeria, moved over to the United States about 13 years ago and started my career journey in Michigan. Went to school at Central Michigan University where I did my master's in information technology and then started my career as a business intelligence designer. Well, special thanks to you, Pastor May. Remember back then how we used to sit down, and you were also a business intelligence professional back then, and you would sit down and review resumes and all that. And I had a lot of interest in the area of data and data engineering then, but back then it wasn't called data engineering; it was just called database developing. And I had a lot of interest in doing database development. I had a lot of training back in school with a group within our facilities management. And then coming to Chicago, meeting you, and then sparking a whole new interest in this whole new area called business intelligence, where you do reporting and analytics. And there were tools that are not considered ancient now. There
Yeah.
was some SSRS. What's the other tool again? There was another one that was
SSRS, there was
MicroStrategy, and
SSIS, SSRS. Oracle had something in the space as well. You
yes,
know, it's amazing,
yes,
wow, how it's grown
yeah.
and
So
evolved since that time. It's really amazing. And I guess at that time, we didn't even know we were at the cross of something that was going to become big, right? I don't know if that has been
no, not at
experienced.
all.
You know,
Yeah, we did
I
not
like
know that. We didn't know that.
we didn't know. We just found it exciting. We found it interesting. I, for one, I just loved data from the first time. I mean, I'm from a software engineering background myself. And for many years, at least the first few years of my career, I was basically in software engineering. I was doing assembly language level programming and then doing C++ that interfaced with hardware. And then I moved to Chicago and I got into business intelligence. And the first time I dealt with data, right, at a significant level, I slept and I dreamt of numbers. And someone could say, how can you dream of numbers? I don't know. I was sleeping and I was seeing numbers. And I mean, it's really something I love. I still love it. I'm still intrigued by it. Um, you know, and I don't know, what do you love about the whole field of data engineering, data science, dealing with data, providing solutions with informed by data. What do you love the most about it?
Um, my first exposure to data back then was a company called CJE Senior Life, and I worked in this company for a very short time. And then firsthand, I saw how they were using data to plan routing.
Hmm.
And then you would see how they're using data to plan where to send the bus to. How it was a home health company, but how do you send the where to send the bus to, how to do the doctor scheduling, how to do the feeding, how the feeding of the people in the home health care. So it really fascinated me, and I thought to myself, how can I learn about this thing? Because I saw a direct connection between data and business.
Hmm.
And I was able to figure out very quickly that the branch of technology closest to business is the branch that evolves the fastest and is the branch that stays the longest.
Hmm.
And so and data became so fascinating to me that I in later part of my career I did go on to go work for information builders just to
Hmm.
get an understanding of how do they even make this business intelligence tool. And we
Wow.
made our own business intelligence tool. And those things just continue to fuel my interest, that desire to learn how to grow a business with data and
Hmm.
seeing business managers actually use data to make decisions, and those decisions actually create results. Now that is the high point of my day. That is what I love so much about working with data.
Hmm. So you are very big about the impact, the direct impact your work has on the business, right? And
Yeah,
right now, if I'm
yes,
correct, yes.
correct.
Yeah, it's one thing to be doing something that feels very theoretical. It's another thing to do something and actually see what impact you are making through the work you are doing and the effort you are putting in. And now you are doing so at Microsoft. Can you tell us a little bit about what your day to day is like on your current job?
Um, my day to day on my current job is, believe it or not, typical of anywhere that you would go to where you use data. I lead a combined team of data scientists and data engineers,
Mm.
where we're trying to understand how to use our data to help our business teams to make better decisions. It's all about making decisions.
Yes.
So, can we just make decisions based on how we feel, or can we make informed decisions based on the data that we see?
Hmm.
Um, and that is where we come in and try to help our business partners make those better decisions using the data that we have. So my typical day would start with a cup of coffee, like usual.
Yeah, we have to get the brain cells going, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, my typical day would start with a cup of coffee, and then I'll have meetings with my partners, trying to help understand how we can drive those business decisions for them that day. And I'll typically have so many projects in flight, and then check up on those projects and make sure that they are where they are supposed to be. And midday, it's also meetings. And I'm a very technical person, very hands-on technical person, so I do lead some project myself too. Do some work. I still love to code, so I still do it significantly today. And then my day will usually end with me doing a recap of the day and checking my to-do calendar to make sure that all my meetings, all my deliverables, and my team is well catered for too. So
Wow.
that's my day to day.
Wow, amazing. I love that you mentioned that you still do some coding, some software development because you have a passion in that area. But I'm sure you must have been very intentional to stay that way. One thing I hear a lot is that, I mean, as you and I know as you grow in management, you tend to lose those technical skills, right? Because you don't use them as frequently. In fact, believe it or not, the person who trained me in who inspired me towards business intelligence, she's now passed. She's late. Her name is Dana Street. And, you know, I was reading her bio recently, obituary, and one of the things they said is that she kept insisting that she would not take a management role because she loved the hands-on so much. But somehow you've been able to combine it. How have you done that? How intentional have you had to be, and how have you made it possible?
Um, so it's just to preface it here. As we start growing our careers, especially for someone like me that started from a very technical beginning as a software developer, you start realizing that it is less about the task, it's now about the strategy.
Yeah.
At first, it stopped being about a task and now becomes about a design.
Hmm.
And then you now grow to the point where it's no longer about the design, it's now about the strategy.
Hmm.
And then when you get to that point where it's now about the strategy, there is this tendency for the passion that led you to that point to fall away because, like the passion of coding that brought you to that point, you're no longer in that space. However, for me, it's more about understanding where I am.
Hmm.
I know what is required of me is to be able to drive strategy, is to be able to, create that strategy that then drives those solutions. So my desire to still do some coding shouldn't interfere with
Your
that
problem.
my actual deliverables. So
Yeah.
that's how I balance it. If there is an interference, then I have to shift it up. It's understanding what is required of me and then realizing how much bandwidth I still have after doing what's required of me to then go do some other things that I really like.
Mm. Wow, that's very profound. Knowing what your priorities are, right? Setting priorities, and because we can't always do everything we'd like to do. And what I hear you saying is that you need to recognize what you were hired for. What am I being paid for? Why am I being paid? Why does this company pay me? And know that that has to be your chief commitment, and where you need to be excellent all the time to deliver all the time. And then after you've done that, knowing how much space, how much bandwidth do I have for other things that I may have a passion for, right?
Yes.
That's been practical.
If I may quickly add, we also need to think of what is required for my growth.
Hmm.
What is required for my growth?
Hmm.
And if for me at this stage, coding is not required for my growth.
Hmm.
So the prioritization should also reflect that too. That there are other things I need to do that is required for my growth. I don't want to be stagnant, and I know a lot of people don't want to be stagnant too. So understanding what's required for your growth, and
Hmm.
then what is required from you right now, and then what are those things that you're passionate about that does not fall into those two buckets. And that's how I prioritize, and then I find time to make sure that the three of them align properly.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Beautiful. That leads me to the next question. How do you grow? How have you grown over the years? What are the things you've paid attention to? And what kind of strategies have you adopted to enable yourself to continue to grow in your career?
Growth for me over the years have been in stages. So just like you, I have three young energetic boys. I've seen them have growth sports. Those growth sports also happen in careers too. I
Mm.
remember the early stage of my career where my growth was completely dependent on how much I drive, how hard I drive, how fast I go. And then I grew to that point where now my growth is now dependent on a balance between my work and my family life.
Mm.
So growth for me at this point is no longer just getting the next position.
Mm.
It's now about a balance between getting that next, moving to that next level in my career, and also maintaining that work-life balance for me to be able to cater to my family. So how of how I've grown in between these stages vary according to the various stages that I have passed through.
Wow. Wow, you are really unpacking some really deep things here. Because I think that people don't intuitively think about that, like how my life, my home life affects my career. I think especially for men, right? I think, okay, I need to drive, I need to drive, I need to drive. So why do you take that holistic view? What are the dangers you see in not considering your family life as you push for growth in your career? Why
Um,
do you choose to take that approach?
so the question for me was, what is most important to you?
Hmm.
There was a time when it was just me. So it's me. I'm the most important thing, right? So I could drive as hard as I want. I could travel as far as I wanted, do any kind of work. I could work 24 hours a day if I wanted to. And then I got to that stage where I now have a family. So it took me a while to start understanding and move from that me stage to the us stage where my family is now more important than the work. So it also helps me to understand, okay, so if I know what is important to me, now I know where my focus should lie. And my focus line, as my family continue to grow, so my work continues to also grow. And then I realized that because I know where the focus is, it was then easy for me to also manage my teams.
Hmm.
And people will connect to me because they find me genuine,
Yeah.
and they know that, okay, this guy has a family, and he's when someone at work comes and he talks about their family, I'm able to connect and understand where they're coming from. Not because I just have a family, but because my focus is also on my family too. So I totally understand how that dynamics play with them.
Hmm.
And so that's the first stage, knowing where the focus is. Now that I know that the focus is on my family, how do I then grow my workplace? How do I then grow in my career? I can grow in my career in the same way I can grow my family.
Hmm.
They are intertwined, but they are also they're sort of like parallel, and I am in between both of them. Now, if I look at my family today and figure out, okay, this is what my family needs this year, and then it's not easy for me to go look at my work and say, what can I do based on the need I have here to drive growth here?
Hmm.
So remember, I keep using the word drive because most of us we tend to feel like it's passive, it will just happen. No, you have to drive it. As one of my mentors would say, you are the driver in a car, and the road is just being paved in front of you. So you're still the driver. Yeah, yeah. You don't know where the road is leading to yet, but you're still the driver. The road is being paved in front of you. And once we understand that concept of knowing where the focus is and how to grow with that focus, then it becomes not easy. It becomes a little bit more straightforward to grow both in your family and
Hmm.
in your career work.
Hmm.
Because if I'm growing in my family, then I have that confidence, that knowledge that, okay, one area of focus is good. Let me focus on the other area. And that's why I'm able to go to work in the morning and come back home in the evening and deal with, work with my family and then go to work and work because I know that these areas of focus are well taken care of. And then growth starts to happen.
Yeah.
It becomes very organic
Hmm.
because the focus is right.
Mm, wow. Excuse me. It sounds to me like you're saying that we need clarity for growth to actually happen and be sustained. You sound like somebody who has clarity of what family means to him, both now and in the future. And you have clarity about what your work and growth at work means to you. And that clarity helps you to continue to sustain growth, right? So that growth isn't something that's like a sprint, but it's something that we're experiencing and cultivating throughout our careers and our lives. That's
I
very.
couldn't have said it better. You just hit the nail on the head. And when you define growth that way, we start seeing that growth is not promotion, right? They're two
Mm.
different things. So I can get a promotion at work. It doesn't mean I'm growing,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Yeah, it doesn't mean I'm growing. I could just get into a place of stress just because of that promotion. Doesn't mean I'm growing. But when you have that clarity, you have that focus, growth it becomes organic.
Oh, wow. That's powerful. That's that's really, really profound. What do you enjoy the most about where you're at right now?
Um, in life, generally, where I enjoy the most about where I'm at right now is my family and the people that surround me.
Mm,
Um, in my professional career, what I enjoy the most right now is the journey of learning.
mm,
I do consider myself a lifelong learner,
yeah.
and that growth mindset of being a learner has
Mm,
helped me a lot.
mm,
Whether it's working in one of the largest financial institutions in the world or largest social media company, and now Microsoft, one of the things that always sustained me is having that growth mindset.
yeah.
And I love learning. I enjoy it. So professionally in my career, that is what I'd say I enjoy the most because I often walk into the place where I'm not the smartest in the room,
Wow.
and just sitting down, listening to people, getting their ideas, getting their opinion, understanding how the hows behind what they're doing, so that I can then go apply those to achieve the same results or even better. Is what I enjoy the most about what I do today, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay, so there are some people that would get intimidated by opportunities to learn instead of capitalizing on them, right, to become better. For example, you walk into the room, you are not the smartest person in the room. People are talking and it's going over your head, and you feel like, oh my God, am I dumb? Over here, they'll think that I'm dumb. And because of that, some people don't learn. They immediately just shut down, right? And they're so self conscious. What are So it means that not everyone who has the opportunity for growth does take advantage of it. What are some of the skills, call it mindsets, call it attitudes or character traits, that you think have helped you and continue to help you to be a lifelong learner?
So I'll borrow from a framework I learned called for situational leadership.
Hmm.
Um, where I believe the way they defined it was that competence and commitment determines your development level.
Hmm.
So for example, when I walk into a room, I keep an open mind, and that's the first thing: being open-minded,
Yeah.
understanding that there is an opinion outside mine,
Hmm.
and accepting the fact that that opinion could be better. So it doesn't matter how smart I think I am. It doesn't matter how accomplished I think I am. When I walk into a room, the first thing I do is understand that there is a different opinion in that room, and
Hmm.
that opinion may be better than mine.
Wow.
Accepting it even before I step in,
Hmm.
that
Wow.
creates that open door.
You precondition your mind.
Recondition your mind.
Hmm.
Pastor May has an opinion and it may be better than mine.
Hmm. Hmm.
When you come in like that, it creates that open door for you to receive what others have to say.
Wow.
And that is the first step for me. And
Hmm.
then the second step for me is I'm very, very inquisitive. Be prepared to challenge assumptions. I start with myself. I would challenge myself often.
Hmm.
Why don't I want to do this?
Yeah.
Why don't I understand what these people are saying? I challenge my thinking. It's either they don't know what they're saying or I don't know. I've met people, I've been in scenarios where you say something and someone says, no, it doesn't make sense. And you just smile because you know that they don't understand. It truly does make sense. So I challenge myself and say, why is there a gap here?
Yeah.
And what is the gap? There is a
Mm,
gap, but what is it and why is it there? And how do I close it? And
mm,
once I do that, it takes away that ego and now pushes you towards the learning path. And once you get on that learning path, once you get on that learning path, you are on the right side to you're on the right path with a growth mindset. So
yeah.
that is basically growth mindset, having that growth mindset and coming into a place and saying, I want to grow. And the
Mm.
way you grow is by learning.
Wow.
You
Wow.
know, so those are two foundational principles that I have. Sure, sure.
Um, so it sounds to me like humility plays is a component here. Like it's a
It has to be.
mm,
It has to be. So there is humility, and so I just want to draw a distinction here between humility and naivety, right?
mhm,
So me walking a room and being naive and not being intimidated, that's not humility, right?
yeah.
Humility is you dealing with yourself
Mm,
with a view to growing. And then you know that, okay, I even call it meekness in some way. It doesn't mean you don't know. It means you're willing to lay down what you know because you know that there will be something better than what you have.
yeah.
That becomes the humility that drives it. And because oftentimes we may, and I've seen this in workplaces, we may confuse humility and being passive. They're not the same thing. Being passive will lead down the route of unproductivity.
Mm.
Humility can lead you through the route of growth mindset.
Oh wow. Amazing. Amazing. Now let's look back at your last three roles, right? You worked at Citibank and
Yes.
then Meta, and then you're now at Microsoft. I was reading something um, a couple of weeks ago, and the author said that most people are at the level of the highest problem that they've solved. That it was basically talking about solving problems and how that leads to that leads to promotion. That you keep solving problems, you keep solving problems, embrace opportunities to solve problems. And when you solve that problem, one way or the other, it pushes you to the next level. So you have people who then get satisfied and then they're at the level of the last big problem that they solved. Now, looking back at your career, specifically the last three positions, what do you think were maybe you could talk about the two most important factors in overcoming maybe some of the biggest problems or challenges that you faced in those two past positions and maybe even in your current position? And we can go into as much detail as you feel comfortable sharing, but talk about problems and talk about problem solving and talk about maybe some of the skills or the factors that have played into your ability to solve problems in your last three roles.
Absolutely. So one of my biggest challenge I've faced is switching from being an individual contributor to being a manager.
Mm,
It was a huge problem. Going from being the person that does the work to being the person that leads a team to do the work.
wow.
It became a huge challenge for me that I had to overcome. It took me a while to overcome that. Um, and it's a challenge that I see a lot of people face today, including people that I mentor. I do see them face those challenges today, and try to help them understand how to move from that individual contributor mindset to a more leadership mindset.
Mm,
One of the when it comes to aside just being able to make that switch, um, I usually don't consider technical challenges as challenges because technology moves so fast.
mm,
And what is a challenge today, it's most likely not going to be a challenge tomorrow,
tomorrow.
right? So most of the big problems I've faced are more people
Mm,
oriented and less technology focused. So I tend to focus in that area more nowadays. In my last three roles, I'm trying to think of an example, a good example to give. Um, I'll say leading teams across leading teams across continent
Hmm.
was very, very difficult for me at first. I had to understand that there's a difference in culture
Wow.
that plays into you being an African in the United States, leading a team across the United States, India, and South America. It
Hmm.
becomes you have to understand how to juggle not just the work, not just the task, but also to also cater to the people because we have to see them beyond their deliverables. And you can't see them beyond their deliverables without having to understand some form of their culture and
Oh,
learn their viewpoints, where they are coming from. Um, that was one challenge I faced. That was one. Another is the challenge of performance management,
hmm.
understanding the drive that I have, and then seeing the drive that other people have and their desire to get work done, their commitment and their
Hmm.
competency to get work done, and then also coming out to manage recency bias to make sure that okay, I'm not biased towards this person because I have the same background with them. I'm not biased against this person because she's a woman. I'm not biased against this person because they didn't go to the kind of school I went to.
Hmm.
Um, just being able to put all that together and create a holistic view of people
Hmm.
truly for who they are is something that I had to learn, and I continue to grow in. So I know as a technical person, I'm often expected to come up with technical, oh, we were trying to build this technical solutions. I have a lot that I can't even talk about, but it's more important to understand that there are people building these things and those people matter the most, and that is where the most struggle have happened in my growth in my career.
Wow. You know what I'm enjoying the most about this interview is that you're actually really going beyond the surface, right? We are looking beneath the surface and looking at things that people don't even recognize to be foundational in the problems we face. For example, I mean, you talked about having working with teams across continents and the fact that culture plays a part in that because people come from cultures and people are so important. It's not just about the technicalities of our projects, right? And the people, but many people miss that and keep wondering why are we not getting, why are we not on the same page, why don't we seem to be speaking the same language. That's because really, if you look at it, we may all be speaking English, but we're not really speaking the same language. And
Yeah.
that's it. That is so powerful. Do you think there's anything that has helped you, any factor that's helped you step back and look at things that way? Being a highly technical person,
Mhm.
um, it could have been easy for you to just keep focusing on the technicalities and never get to a point where you were looking deeper. Do you think there are any factors that have played into you being that way?
Oh, absolutely. I'd say the number one factor that have played into me being that way is my faith.
Hmm.
Um, my faith requires me to look deeper. My
Wow.
faith requires me to recognize the consequences of my action. And so I can do things, I cannot just do things nonchalantly and not care about how it impacts other people. So I think that would be my number one, would be my faith. And then I think the other one would be my upbringing. Um, I was brought up in a society where we care for each other. Back home in Nigeria, it truly takes a village.
Yeah.
Right? So that society where we truly care about each other, up to the point that if we did some of the things that are done back home, you be called nosy here. Right? So we do care about each other a lot, and I think that upbringing comes into. And another thing is, I have been very, very fortunate to have worked under a lot of great people, a lot of great leaders that have, tutored me, taught me how to see things from different perspectives, put me through trainings, and helped me grow. So those three factors, I think, have influenced how I see things today a lot.
Wow, wow. That's amazing. That's powerful. Now, let's say peradventure somebody is watching us today and they are trying to get, you've worked with a lot of companies that are on the cutting edge and very relevant to your space, your industry. Let's say there's somebody here and they're trying to just level up. They're trying to move from where they are at. They may even have a job today, but they are just trying to break into spaces where it's more dynamic, where they are working with the type of companies that you've had the opportunity to work with. What would you advise people like that?
The first thing I always tell people is try. People often see an environment and say, "Oh no, I don't belong there. Oh, there's no way I can go there." You'll be shocked. They're probably actually looking for you.
Mm.
Give it a try. And then the second thing is developing your competence. You can't expect to go be a part of some of the smartest people in the world and not be at that level.
Yeah.
You can be at that because those are people. They're human beings just like you. You just have to develop that confidence. And then we live in a world today that you don't have to pay so much to develop that confidence.
Very
You can
true.
you can do it. There are a lot of self-taught experts today
Mm.
that really devoted time and energy to learning, and then they grew from there. Um, Another advice I'll tell people is generally, um, especially those of us that are still, even if before going to college, let me just start from there. I do advise people do things that would take care of the fundamentals of what you want to do. If you already know, say for example, you want to come into software engineering, I usually advise people, if you want to go into software engineering, do go to school to do things that will teach you on the fundamentals, like your computer science or
Mm.
an engineering course or software engineering. I do see a lot of trainings, a lot of degrees today, very, very narrow. I would say, I, personally, I mean, this is personal opinion, I would avoid
Mm.
those and stick to the ones with good breadth in fundamentals. And if you're already in a career, you want to switch, there's a lot of trainings out there. Ground yourself first. Ground yourself. There's so much resources out there. So much resources in training, whether it's training on what the core competencies are. For example, if you go on YouTube today and go find what the core competencies of data engineering is, which is what I line of engineering into, you see them there. You see roadmaps on how to get there.
Mm. Mm.
Pick one and follow it. When you get there, trust yourself enough that you can make that jump. And when you trust yourself enough that you can make that jump, and then you may start small and you don't like where you start, but then the growth is going to be organic because you are laying a foundation. And then lastly, if you're in a job today that is already related to all the things I'm talking about, and then you just want to be able to step up from there, I'll say trust yourself. Trust
Mm.
yourself and make a lot. You'll be shocked how many people don't even apply because they feel like,
They
no,
disqualify themselves. They
yeah, you
don't
just
even wait
disqualify
for
yourself.
others to disqualify them. Mm.
Exactly, exactly. And seek professional help. This is one thing that a lot of us don't do. You want to advance in your career. It is not too expensive. I'm talking about those of us that are already working right now. Um, Invest in your career. Invest in a coach, right?
Mm.
They'll help you. They'll help coach you on how to present your best self.
Mm.
at all times how to maintain that executive presence. Executive presence doesn't start after you get the job. It starts when you're applying,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
then when you sit for that interview, and then you get the job, and then the executive presence continues from there.
Mm,
Those things, you're hardly born with them,
yeah.
right? You have to learn them, invest in it. If you invest in it, it will yield a reward. But if you just stay there and keep applying, there's probably a reason why you haven't
Why
gotten
you
it
are
so
not
far.
getting in. So you need to change something, and to know what you need to change, you need help, right?
There
Because
are
you
resources.
are probably blindsided to,
Yes, yes,
maybe you are portraying a weakness, and you're not showcasing your strength enough, because we all have weaknesses, right? But we don't want to lead with our weaknesses. We want to lead with our strengths while we're working on our weaknesses. But you may not see it, right? Because you may
yes,
not see it.
yes. I can
Mm,
give you one quick example, if I may. I
please go
was I was talking to one of my coaches about a year ago, and he said something is lacking from our conversation. I said, "What
ahead.
is that?" He said empathy. I was
Mm,
taken aback. No, I'm a very, very considerate person. I empathize with people. And he said, no, you
mm,
have to communicate empathy. It's not just about how you feel. You have to actually communicate empathy. And
mm.
people will see it when you act towards them that way. But communicating empathy gives you the opportunity to empathize.
Wow.
How can you empathize when you can't even communicate to the person that you're
Mm,
empathizing with? It took someone from the outside to see it in our conversation and tell me, "Hey, you're a good person. I see you know how to empathize with people, but you can't communicate it.
can't
And when
come.
you can't communicate it, don't blame them if they don't understand.
Mm,
Are you trying to empathize with them? It's
mm.
you. You've not been able to communicate that empathy to the person." And that was an example of me getting better by
Wow.
investing in myself
I
and
can
having
imagine.
someone take a look
Wow.
at me and say, here's where you can change.
Oh wow, that's really powerful. So in other words, so in short, don't be ready to have your life scrutinized, at least your professional life, demeanor, your attitudes, the way you come across to people.
Yeah,
And don't just be like, oh, that's the way I am, that's the way I am. Then you're going to remain that way.
yes, yes. There are people that are gonna speak
Hmm.
where you won't be there,
Yeah. Wow.
and those are conversations that make and break you in the corporate environment.
Mm.
And when I pray every day, I always make it a point of prayer for myself that God speak for me where I can't speak for myself. Because
Yeah.
there are a lot of environments where we think we hold the cards, but
Yeah.
then conversations happen outside you, and then the people you've impacted,
That would
the
speak.
people you've worked with are those that can now speak to you,
Hmm.
to your content in your absence. So
Wow.
that's
Mm.
one reason we have to develop ourselves to be able to then show that side of us that this is the best side of me. I am still working on it, but it's good enough for you to have it.
Yeah. Wow. That's powerful. And we don't necessarily even know who those people are, right? Because they may be the people we least expect. Because yeah, right, because we
Correct.
don't know, sometimes we don't know where these conversations are going to happen, who is going to be in the room when those conversations are happening. And um, we can't control it at that time, because we
That's
are
what really
not
makes
even
it clear.
there to raise our
Yes,
voices on our own behalf. Hmm.
yes, that's true. That's very true. And it's very important that we know that, and that also helps us to that also helps us to understand the environment that we're in. Because
Yeah.
when you know that there are conversations that are going to happen beyond me or outside me, then you start to treat everyone with respect.
Yes, yes, that's where I'm going. That's what I'm getting at. You can't, you can't pick. You can't say I'll be nice to this person because they are probably going
No.
to have the opportunity to speak about me, and then I'll just be nasty to this person because after all, who are they? It may be that person you are looking down on that will be in the room for whatever reason and will have the opportunity to either speak well of you or speak badly about you. Yes. So wow, this has been such a wonderful conversation. You've talked about coaches, you've talked about mentoring others, and I know it's a very big part of development, right? Um, for life. How do you approach, first of all, how do you approach mentorship relationships, either for the people you're mentoring or somebody that you are looking to get mentored by? Um, what's your approach?
Um, for me, I just recently started a mentorship partnership where I'm being mentored by someone
Mm,
professionally.
yeah.
It's always purposeful, purpose driven, um, and you have to make sure that there is a purpose for that mentorship.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just a friendship where
Mm,
we're just having conversations and we're just friends, and
yeah.
which is good. I mean, there is nothing wrong with that, but there has to be an intentionality behind mentorship.
Mm,
Um, there are certain people that I have worked with before. I have to send them an agenda of what I want to talk about in that mentorship session. And they tell you if you don't have anything to talk about, don't come.
then yeah, then there's no
I
point.
thought this person is so mean. And now I'm seeing it. Right? Now I'm seeing why. Um, and they would never, ever create an agenda for me.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, how big is your mindset and how
Mm,
far do you want to grow?
yes.
Okay, so what do you want to talk about today?
Mm,
How can I help you?
yes.
That's why I'm here. I'm here to help you change. I'm here to help add value to your life. Where?
Mm,
Now it's my job,
right. You know.
to go figure out how I want this person to help me.
Yes.
It's my responsibility to go figure out where I want this person to help me. What outcomes do I want from this?
Mm,
And
mm,
then when I get there, and at times my mindset is completely wrong, and I'm telling them this is what I want, this is what, but just for the fact that I've thought through it and I've brought this before them, they are able to then turn it around
mm,
and tell me this is where you should be looking at. You're looking at it wrong. This is the scale you should be looking at. You're looking at it too small.
mm.
But when you come with nothing, so
Like
that's the
it's
same
like
way
you
I
don't even
approach.
respect their time. Mm,
Exactly. So that's the same way I approach mentorship today.
mm.
Um, so in case any one of you are watching this, I'm not being mean. It's what I was taught.
It's just the truth because um you may not know what's hurting you. Somebody may watch this and they've been trying to succeed at, I mean, they've been trying to get mentorship, get someone to mentor them, and they're not getting much out of it. That may be
Yep.
why they're not. And that may be
Specific.
why maybe the mentors, the people they've approached to be mentors, have maybe they were excited the first two meetings, and after that they're not available, and you may be wondering why. It may be because they feel you've been wasting their time, and
Yep.
truth
Yes.
is always good. Like sometimes it's a bitter pill to swallow, but it's better to know so that we can make adjustments, because many times, oftentimes, what we don't know is hurting us and we don't realize it. Yeah.
Absolutely. It has to be intentional.
Mm,
It has to be driven. It has to be outcome driven, right? Right. So you need to have an outcome, an expectation of an outcome in your mind. This is what I want to get from this mentorship. Because what do you want me to mentor you on,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What are you going to be mentored on? If you just want to be my friend, lovely. I like friends. We can chat anytime, right? But if you want a mentorship on what?
Yes.
On what? Okay, on career. Okay, great. On choosing a career path. Okay, great. Choosing a college to go to. Fantastic. Choosing a course to do in college. Fantastic. These are all outcome driven,
Mm.
purposeful meetings where you know what you want out of it. And there are scenarios where after your first meeting, you know that this is not the right mentor for me
Mm.
because you know what you want.
Yeah.
And you can see it. And they, if it's a mentor that's what they're sold, they can also tell you, okay, you know what? I don't think I'm the right person here. I'm going to refer you somewhere else.
Okay.
And then driving that partnership. Um, Again, there could be scenarios where mentorship now leads to friendship.
Mm.
There are scenarios where the people that are your mentors are not your friend. They're
Mm.
people that are capable. At
Mm.
times, I've been in a scenario where they sent me to someone and say, "Hey, go meet that person. You need coaching here." And
Mm.
then I go meet them and they help me. I don't know them; they're not my friend, but they know what to do and they coach it. And then at times, mentorship will lead to friendship and lifelong partnership.
Mm.
Those are great experiences. But at that point in time where you need help with something, where you need to be focused in one area, you need to be coached in something, it has to be very intentional, it has to be purpose driven, it has to be outcome driven.
Oh, wow. That is so profound. I feel like I need to bring you back at a later date for a whole conversation on this mentorship, mentoring, where people are getting it wrong, best practices, and what have you. But unfortunately, I need to bring this to a close right now. It's been such an awesome time, and I'm really thankful. Thank you for joining me in the studio today on Career Journeys, where we tell stories that inspire. Your story has been really inspirational, and I'm sure that our audience has gained a lot from it. I hope to have you again, like I said, on a platform like this where we can continue to talk about your story. Thank you for being here, Omar.
Absolutely.
All
It was
right.
my pleasure. Thank you so much. I couldn't have missed it for anything. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I want to say bye bye. Thank you. Join us next time.